Hey everyone, it's Eric Jensen again here for some more sports talk. We'll get right into things. Well, first, sad note: Trevor Zegras in a preseason game got leveled and is out for the Ducks. So don't ever like to see injuries, especially not in meaningless preseason stuff. But I'll get into more hockey as that actually gets going. I mean, there's some other news like Zellweger is going back to the Silvertips. It looks like this season. I thought he was going to be up at the big club, but he'll be back up here in Washington. So I may have to go and check him out again. Anyways, let's get into college football. A game that I think is already starting that I don't really need to touch on is the BYU-Utah State game. I think BYU will win this game, no problem. BYU has got an issue. They've just got so many players that keep on getting injured. So that's my concern for them going throughout the rest of the season. This hopefully will give them a good week off, beating up on the little brother. Anyways, tomorrow on Friday night, we've got a big one in the Pac-12, Washington and UCLA. UCLA has played nobody, and they've struggled a couple games against nobodies, and Washington looks great. And there will be no one at the Rose Bowl to see this game. I like the Huskies to win this. I was higher on UCLA earlier, but they haven't, I don't know. They're UCLA. What can I say? They just, there's something about them that isn't great. So, yeah, that's all I can say about that. Washington, I think they'll win comfortably too. I don't think anyone's stopping Penix and that offense. Michigan, Iowa, I bring this up just because Iowa can pull upsets. I don't think their offense is good enough to do that this time. I think Michigan wins this test. And we've got Kentucky, Ole Miss. That's a good game. And I don't believe in Kentucky. I know they're in the top 10, and they've beaten Florida, who isn't great. They're just okay. So I am picking the Rebels to beat Kentucky. I think Jackson Dart in the offense will be able to score enough points in Kentucky. Maybe I'm just think I'm way too old and things have changed, but I just, Kentucky, I don't see, even with their team and even with the success that they've had somewhat, they're not there yet. Oklahoma, TCU, a couple, Oklahoma coming off the loss. I think this will be a closer game than people expect. In fact, TCU may pull off this upset as well. I think Oklahoma is just, I think they're about ranked where they should be now, up in the 20s. I think they're a good team, but a flawed team, and I think we'll see that here. It'll be close. I think Oklahoma will win this game, but yeah. Purdue, Minnesota. Minnesota's undefeated. I thought Purdue was going to be a lot better than they have been, but Minnesota hasn't played really anyone, especially if you count the Michigan State not being anyone. So I'm going to say the Boilermakers in an upset here, ending Minnesota's undefeated season. We've got the pair of Big 12 teams pulling up off the upsets last week. Texas Tech at K-State. I think K-State's a lot better than Texas Tech. Look for Adrian Martinez to continue to run the ball down Texas Tech, and as well as, through the air as well. We've got Oregon State going to Utah. This one, I don't know what to think in this one. I was very impressed with Oregon State last week, and I'll go into that game that they had last week a little bit more when we're talking about the USC game. But the Oregon State looked very solid, especially in the secondary. Of course, Utah's going to try and be physical. They're going to try and outmuscle you there. I think this is going to be a very close game. I will say that because it's in Salt Lake City at Rice Eccles, I will give Utah the nod here in who I think is going to win. But, I mean, by a point or two. And look for it to be real close. Oregon State's a good team. I was very impressed with everything they did. Very impressed. Alabama at Arkansas. Alabama's going to crush Arkansas. This will not be close. I think that's all I have. Arkansas is a little overrated. They have no one in their secondary. And Bryce Young is going to expose that a whole lot. Then we've got Oklahoma State Baylor. I like this one. I think, again, this is a rematch of the Big 12 championship game last year. I think it could be again. Both of these teams are great teams, I think. I will say that Oklahoma State has the nod on offense. I think they're going to be able to outscore Baylor in this one. So give me the Cowboys in that one. We've got Wake Forest and Florida State. I don't believe in Florida State. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, they're back. They haven't really beaten anyone. LSU was the first week, and that wasn't really anyone. Louisville was okay, but not great. So what I'm saying is that I don't believe Florida State is back yet. And I think Wake Forest, while their defense is awful, their offense is incredible, and they will outscore Florida State. And it'll be like a 2-touchdown game, I think. We've got Texas A&M and Mississippi State. Again, like I told you last week, and I missed it last week because Arkansas kicked a ball and it hit the top of the upright and didn't go in at the end of the game to lose that game to Texas A&M. But I don't believe in Texas A&M. I don't think they're good. I think Leach, the Pirate, he's going to expose Texas A&M by quite a bit. He will run up the score on them. And Mississippi State, I mean, I don't know what happened against LSU, but I don't think that will happen again. I think their offense will run very smoothly. They will score a lot of points, and Texas A&M will get a loss this week and then a loss looking forward to Alabama the next. Elsewhere, Cal is surprisingly all right. Their offense is exploding. Their freshman running back is good. They're going up to Pullman to play the Cougars, who couged it last week. Finding ways to lose games. That was Wazoo that last week. But Washington State, I think, is solid. I think they're going to be problems for Cal. In that Cal-Arizona game that Cal did so well, a lot of it was Arizona turning the ball over. I don't think that's going to happen this next game against Washington State. I think it'll be close. Cal is a lot better than I thought they were going to be. And again, I mean, they've got a real great freshman running back, so that's a big part of it. I didn't realize he was going to be so good. But I think Wazoo they're better than Cal. And I think at home, Wazoo will win that. We've got one of the biggest games of the week, the NC State and Clemson game. And Clemson's offense came alive. DJ he was playing lights out against Wake Forest in a double overtime victory against them. The defense got gashed a little bit against Wake Forest. I don't think they'll get gashed again. I think this will be a lower scoring game. And I don't believe in Clemson in this one. I think NC State will pull the upset and will shock the college football world there. I mean, I don't know how shocking that is. They're both highly ranked. But I do think in a very, very close game, NC State, they have the experience to do it. They've returned so many people that if they don't this year, they're going to go down. But I do think NC State is going to win this one. We've got back in the Pac-12 a couple other games. Colorado at Arizona. Colorado is awful. I think before the season I had them predicted going winless, and it's very well on their way to be winless. They're awful. Arizona will win big. And then we have Stanford, Oregon. Stanford always gives Oregon a challenge. I I was impressed with how Bo Nix and Oregon moved the ball, especially there in the fourth quarter. Well, they were moving the ball all game against Washington State. They weren't scoring points for a lot of the game up until that fourth quarter when they let on that barrage. So I think that Stanford is okay at best. So I think the Ducks will win comfortably, especially because it's at Autzen. Which brings us to the last game, Arizona State coming to USC. I don't think this will be much of a game. Arizona State is in shambles. They've got no one in their secondary, no one on offense. They're a mess. Coachless. They're completely a mess. So I will use this time so USC is going to win big, I believe. I think they're going to run the ball down Arizona State's throat. I think Caleb Williams will get in rhythm again. But let me use this to discuss what happened last week, which was a stressful game, entertaining at the end when USC with Nealon nudge, keeping that drive alive, and then Caleb Williams finding Addison in the end zone. The thing I will say is Caleb Williams has struggled. I mean, he's had 1 year basically of starting now. He struggled against real tough teams last year in Oklahoma as a freshman, and Oregon State secondary was very good, and he was just off. And now I need to go back and look maybe at some of the Oklahoma stuff, but it's a question on, was he rattled or was he off? If he was just off, that happens, and he's back on and he should be good. If he was a little bit rattled, then USC has more to worry about, because then you go into a place like Utah or a hostile environment like that, and things might not look so good in that sort of situation. If he was just having an off night, I expect the offense to start getting into the swing of things and score more than 17 points. Hopefully they're healing up on the offensive line again. I know that was a big issue. I mean, Caleb Williams, he was dancing around in the backfield, avoiding sacks like a madman. He just couldn't hit the broadside of a barn in the game. It seemed like up until that last drive against Oregon State, all of a sudden he was hitting passes again. It was like, oh, this is the quarterback I know and love. But so anyways, it'll be interesting to see. What I do like is that the defense is continuing to create turnovers. I think that's a great culture they're developing. That's just like the Pete Carroll teams. So I want that to continue. The defense looked really good against Oregon State. Surprised me that game did not go the way I thought it would. So if the defense can continue to improve as they have been, and our offense gets back on track and it was just an off game, USC is very well primed to go through this Pac-12 season and do some serious damage and potentially even make it to the playoff. If Caleb Williams, again, it'll be interesting to see what he does in the future. If he can get rattled, if you can get him off, then USC will be a little bit more of a struggle. So this game won't tell us anything. This should be a good bounce back game. Everyone should be back, running and firing on all cylinders. So Trojans big, fight on, have a good week.